Your website is the mousetrap. Your content is the cheese. Welcome to Content Matters with Barry Feldman and Andy Crestodina.
Events are your fast track to networking and building relationships and will be the key to your success in marketing.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. And that's why events matter. So, Barry, here we are. We are both fans of marketing events. We go to a lot of conferences. We met at a conference. It's an expensive and time-consuming way to do marketing and networking. But tell us, what's the point? Why go to events?
You always begin with these massive questions. There's certainly a long list of answers, and I have some notes. I think first and foremost are number one and number two. You're going to go there to learn. You know, you're paying good money. You're going to hear people speak that know things that you'd like to know, and so first and foremost, you're going there to learn. But the more you go to these things, I hate to say it, but maybe the less you learn, and the more you focus on making friends and networking. But the list goes on. You can prospect. I've done that a fair share of my time, going around the floor, just shaking hands and saying, this is what I do, and perhaps I can do it for you, or perhaps we have an opportunity to collaborate, work together. You get ideas. Oh my God, that's a great benefit of it. You get a lot of ideas. And I think, though, it doesn't go as said as often as it probably should. I think it was the first episode of our program when we talked about Content Marketing World. You get revs, and if you're looking for getting revved and your rev engine is low, you get re-revved. You get pumped up about the field you're in, I think, by connecting with people that are enthusiastic about it.
Absolutely. So there's networking benefits, there's learning benefits, you get ideas, you can even create content. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, the learning. Let's just start with the learning. That's the presumed benefit. That's what these events are marketing themselves as, a place where the content, they're programming, the event directors are programming the conferences. So there's definitely ways to get more or less value from these events. And one of the things that I encourage anyone to do is to prep in advance, because the worst thing is to go to a session that wasn't a fit for you or wasn't very useful. So what we try to do is to make sure that we know in advance what we're going to attend. So here's a quick trick for making sure that you find the right speakers. A lot of these speakers are pros. A lot of these speakers have done a lot of content. A lot of these speakers have made videos. Before you choose your sessions, Google some of the speakers with video after their name, and you might find them actually giving the session that you're considering attending. It's easy to find their speaker pages where they put their best videos, and you can quickly get a sense for whether the style is a fit for you, whether the substance is a fit for you. So pre-work and doing and prepping with a bit of homework can actually help you get a lot more value from these events by missing the sessions that are less of a fit and focusing on the really good ones for you.
Yeah, one of the first ones I ever went to, and one of the first speakers I saw was Marcus Sheridan. You've seen him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I guess now if you go to a lot of content marketing events, you're going to see Marcus. And I was doing exactly what you were saying, I guess not having given that advice, just sort of out of a hunch, who are these people, which one should I go to, and going to their websites and watching their videos. And I saw, about 10 seconds of Marcus, and I go, I'm there. I got to see that guy. I just knew it.
Exactly. So in advance, you're taking less of a risk. You're more certain to get more value. So that's one of the ways that you can actually prep in advance. But there's also ways to get better networking value by prepping in advance. And lots of these events have LinkedIn groups. Lots of these events have social networks. Lots of these events have Twitter chats beforehand. It's easy to find people who are going to be at that event and to begin networking before you even go. I've actually made the travel to the event a chance to do networking. Hey, anybody else going to this conference? Jump in the car. We're going for a ride, and actually had great conversations on the way. So I think that people who are really good at the networking piece don't start at the event. People who are really good at it have dinner plans before they arrive. They know who they're meeting for lunch. They're not. There's less randomness to it because they've actually vetted some of these people, connected with them on LinkedIn, and they know before they go who they hope to meet, and maybe even have some plans.
Yeah, I think so. Dating back again to one of those first ones of mine, there were speakers that were going to present there that were authors of books, and they felt like 100 miles high to me. But I read the books and I stashed the books away and I took them with me and I looked for those people and I said, hey, I read your book. I liked your book. In some cases that were opportunities to talk about the book and sign it. In all cases, those became like kind of lifelong friends. So a form of preparation besides the watching videos and tapping into the kind of obvious online media sources is going offline and reading books. I mean, I think when you go to marketing events or, events within your industry for marketing purposes, aim high, right? You're going to have a limited amount of time. It costs a fair amount of money. Try to meet people that are going to have some sort of impact, or at least that you hope will have some sort of impact on what happens, after the event.
Well, you brought up a good point about bringing the books. So what tips do you have for this audience here, for the listeners, about connecting with speakers? Barry, how do you connect with a speaker at a conference?
I do the same thing you do. And there's so many times we talk about, the reasons why we know each other. One of those could have been, I think we knew each other before our first conference, but they could have been because you were sitting next to me or near me in the front row. That's a great tip. And in your post that we're going to talk about a little bit, you're going to write about that. There's a big room. Everybody's sort of bashful about the front row. Well, in the front row, you're going to get a chance to make eye contact. You're going to learn the most. You're going to be most engaged. You're going to get called on. You're going to have the first chance to ask questions. So that's definitely a tip to answer your question. Don't be shy. Don't unless maybe you suspect you want to get out of there.
Exactly. There's one reason to sit in the back. You might bail. You're not. It's like, this one's a chance. I'm not really sure. This one's not. I don't know if it's a fit. It looks like a panel. It looks kind of weird. I don't know these people. Maybe I'll sit in the back because I might jump and check out another session. But if you think it's going to be good, get out there, sit in front, and you can make eye contact. You can have rapport. You're also the first in line after the event to make sure you shake hands and meet them and introduce yourself. So speakers, anyone who's ever done any speaking, speakers are we all know this, they are very grateful to see the front row filled, right? It's hard for the speaker. It's a more difficult presentation for them to give if everyone's sitting halfway back. Speakers are immediately grateful to people who sit in front.
Yeah.
So it's a missed opportunity. You paid for the conference. Why not get the maximum value by being front and center?
Yeah, the speaker's crossing their fingers a little bit when they ask a question and they hope they're going to get some feedback. So yeah, the more engaged you are, and I suppose geographically speaking, proximity matters here. The closer you are to that speaker, the better your chances of forging a relationship. And I think forging a relationship with speakers is one of the reasons you go to events.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, you might be recording the session. Your audio is going to be better at the beginning. You mentioned bringing books. You can get a book signed. One thing I've done, here's a quick story. I once went to an event, and the moderator of all the panels was this guy from the New York Times, an editor. Amazing moderator. I was like, wow, this guy's fantastic. And I went up to him afterwards, and I knew he was a New York Times editor, and I said, I got an idea for a post. I'm thinking about the different, why people choose to write stories versus lists. Would you mind if I just emailed you a few questions next week and got your feedback on this question of stories versus lists? Absolutely, no problem. I'd already set up the pitch, right? So I emailed him these questions. He emailed me back answers, and it turned into a beautiful post that Copyblogger snapped up in a heartbeat. Because it was a New York Times editor. How did I meet him? Just walked up to him after his sessions. And I didn't bother him at the time, but I told him I was going to email him a couple of questions. So I didn't just use a chance to meet the speakers in a general way. I wanted to meet that speaker with an idea to collaborate on a piece of content, and we both got huge value from it. Creating content is another idea, another way to get more value from events, and I've seen you do it. Some people do it very well. How can an attendee get the most from their ticket price by using a conference or a marketing event as a chance to make something? I
think the Andy Crestodina answer is to take a selfie.
I do it all the time.
It's not legendary content, but I think the ramifications or the benefits or the implications generally are more meaningful than you might suspect. You've made some friends. There's 3 or 4 people. You go, hey, let's get a drink and let's take a picture, and then some people come from the periphery, kind of like Ellis' famous selfie, and they become your future friends and they share it. So there's that. There's sort of the live stream, instant, hashtag this, that, and everything content that comes your way simply because you're having fun, you're learning, you're with like-minded people. And then the list is kind of massive. Any session you can go to can be content because you're taking notes. Some people that stay sober after the event, they go up to their room and they write about it. I've done that before. It's not my first choice of things to do, but I've been, paid or bribed to do it. So you can sort of be a reporter from the event. You can interview people that you plan to or just met there. And then, if you've never been to a marketing conference, the people that are equipped to with the forethought and the budget, they come with a crew, and so they have a backdrop and they have camera people and so forth. You and I were making the rounds, just sort of making friends and picking up t-shirts and swag at Content Marketing World. And about half the time we were asked to be on camera.
Sure. Yep. People want to they want to collaborate, and people love to be interviewed. I'll share an idea that I used at that same conference a different year. Ask It Forward. This was funny. I took a laptop, right, with just the normal laptop camera like that one there. And I walked up to a speaker and I gave him a question. It was Ian Clary was the first one. And I said, Ian, answer this question. He answered the question, but then he asked another question. So then I went to a different speaker and I said, listen to this video of Ian's question and then answer, and then ask your own question. So it was a series of answers and questions from one speaker to the next. I got like 27 of them, and it was hilarious. Yeah. Because it's like, Brian Clark answering Jason Fall's question, and then, Ann Handley answering Brian's question. And they all kind of wanted to be part of it as it went on. It made a beautiful little piece of content, but it sort of ask it forward. It was fun.
Yeah, you didn't come up with that on the fly, though, right? That was way too clever. You had to preconceive that.
I had an idea ahead of time, and I brought nothing more than my laptop and an upgraded microphone, a decent mic. Yeah, that's all I did. So we'll share the video for that, and you can actually find it right there. So that was a lot of fun. The Ask It Forward thing. I've done it other ways, other times, but if you just focus on the quality of the content more than the production value, drop the barriers and just talk to people. Have a question. Ask 25 people the same question. Record their answers, transcribe, and you've got a great post. So I would use that as a chance to, networking, collaboration, content creation. It all goes together. It just takes someone who has a little bit of a plan, and you get a lot more of the value.
I like that tip about dropping the production values. I recall one where you were doing a Periscope, I think, with some of your friends at some event I wasn't at. And one of them was Andrea Vall, and she was like behind you on the same camera or on your camera. So yeah, people don't care that much about that. They simply want to learn. In a lot of cases, they want to have fun.
So let's jump through. Let's get some last quick ideas here. Let's do a lightning round. Barry, your give me a top event tip.
Oh, a top event tip. Well, I didn't get to the one of the things on my list that you mentioned about creating content, and I think that is going there, not necessarily created on the fly, or something as beautifully clever as your Ask It Forward thing, but so much as to leave with opportunities to collaborate. New friends like you and I who later become podcast partners, or people like you rely on me often to give you a quote for a post and vice versa, and so forth. You're featured in my book, so I think there too is a tip. Go there looking for collaboration opportunities.
Definitely. And if you plan while you're there and you're a little bit more organized about it, then you can actually make notes on business cards so you can follow up better. You can make a star next to any of your session notes that is actionable. So when you go through afterwards, you can actually more quickly take action from your notes. After you're back at your desk, don't let that pile of business cards sit under your monitor for 2 months. Get those people into LinkedIn, trigger some ideas and follow up quickly. I think that these things get cold fast because everyone meets a lot of people at events. So you should almost budget in advance before you go to the conference. Put some time on your calendar in advance to go through and make sure that you're following up. Collaborating on ideas. You can finish a pitch that you started, or work on a piece together, or if nothing else, just make sure you connect with everybody on a social network right away.
Is it my turn while we're rapid firing?
Sure. What do you got?
All right, I'll try to do this rapidly. There are people who know me from events who have read my blog posts, during or after events, that know that I play a little bit of a clown role at events. And I think when you and I were talking about the upcoming performance or the upcoming recording of this podcast, we talked about social media pants. Remember that one?
Yep.
And so yeah, when I go to events, sometimes I think, well, I'm not the most famous person there. I'm not speaking. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. How can I have an icebreaker idea? How can I make an event out of meeting me at an event? How can I inspire selfie freaks like Andy Crestodina to take my picture, or anybody to take my picture? And so I come up with fun ideas for icebreakers, and I've done this with my Twitter tee. I called it my Tweety. I did it with that was a T-shirt that people wrote their Twitter handle on me. I've done it with a Pinterest hat where people pin their business cards to my about 2.5 foot high hat. I did it with social media pants. This one was the one I mentioned before. I had my stepmom, who's real handy, help me make patches for like the top 15, 20 social media, and we put those all over my pants. And I made a shirt that said social media pants. I guess I'm not telling you, to. You have to think like Barry and be the kooky guy, but you might think of a reason, not just after, like you talked about, to follow up with something meaningful, but during, to make meeting you memorable. More memorable than hi, can I send you an email, or let's get together on LinkedIn, or here's my business card. And even if you do that, maybe you do that immediately, or you do it colorfully or interestingly, or you do it in some way so that they're not going to forget you later.
Sure. So differentiation, I can't top that, but I will say that in the show notes here, we're going to share a list of 30 or 50 different event tips that cover everything from the packing list about what to bring and your charger and dressing warm and, shoes, how to connect with people, tips for collaborating with people, where to stand at the after party. There's going to be tons and tons of tips there. So we'll share that all. We're running out of time. So we got to go into, ready?
Yeah. Mousetrap and cheese. It always comes up faster than I wanted to. In the rapid fire, I had a few things I wanted to fire at you. Oh, well, that's why we have blog posts. I think when you go to marketing events, and Andy's already talked about preparing and, watching videos and looking at the agenda and figuring out who you're going to talk to and why and so forth. I think when you get there, your mind kind of turns into scrambled eggs. There's a lot of stimulation, and you're often exhausted, and there's a lot coming at you, and so they can be very exhausting. And so I think if you're new to marketing events, and perhaps you've been in refrain mode, they take time, they take money, they take commitment, and so perhaps you've put them off. I know I did. Going in, maybe just simplify your goal going in and say, I'm going there for this reason. And rather than let everything overwhelm you, there's this party, there's this networking opportunity, there's these speakers, there's these things I wanted to learn, these books I wanted to buy, simplify it down to a thing or two that might be meaningful to you as a content marketer, when you get back home. That person that you wanted to meet, that interview you wanted to conduct, that author that you wanted to get to know better. So, yeah, so if you haven't tried a lot of event marketing before, don't fry your brains on your first one. They are overwhelming. Simplify it. All right.
Absolutely. Okay,
Mousetrap,
time for Mousetrap tip. Mousetrap tips are conversion tips. This is how to build a better mousetrap by getting more people to take action. Oftentimes web design tips. So here's one that every single event uses, every event website uses, and everyone who markets event uses, that we can all use in many ways, which is creating urgency. Now, we have a natural predisposition built into our brains as a cognitive bias called loss aversion. And we overvalue losses and undervalue gains. We're afraid of losing something, including losing opportunities. Early bird tickets are a great way to trigger loss aversion. And what happens is people feel the urgency, right? It's like on a travel website, it tells you how many seats are left on that plane or how many rooms, or you got to add that ticket got to finish buying this product in your cart, in Eventbrite before the time runs out. So you can create urgency in all kinds of ways in any context in web design. Events are a natural way to do it, though, because they're time bound, and at some point it's definitely too late. You missed your chance. So, but look for any other way to remind people of the scarcity in your marketing of your offer, whatever it might be. It's important for us to always remind people what they might miss, risk, or lose by not hiring you anywhere on any page. Take that slight negative angle by triggering a tiny bit of anxiety and making people feel like they might miss their chance. So use loss aversion, create urgency, remind people of scarcity to get people to take action on websites. It's a fantastic conversion optimization trick, and one that not everyone is using. Mousetraps.
Yeah, good. Where are we on time?
It's about time to wrap this up, Barry. We've got a 20 to 22-minute podcast. This brings us to the end of Content Matters. Any final closing remarks or other tips about why events matter?
Well, I wanted you to cram into this conversation, and perhaps it can simply be links in our post about events as content, because you, your company, Orbit Media, has wine and what do you call those?
This is important. I'm glad you brought it up. We have two events in our content mix.
Yeah.
Presentations are content. Events are places for content. It's live spoken content, right? That's like any other content marketing. So I recommend that anybody who wants to build trust put some content into their marketing mix, onto their publishing calendar, and do even a small in-house event, Wine and Web. Last night was the beginning of our 6th year doing Wine and Web. We've done it every month for 5+ years. It sells out every time. We set record attendance levels all the time. And then we do an annual event called Content Jam. It's not that hard to program an event. You may notice every marketing event in the world is going to break attendance records. Yeah, this is good business, and it's great content. So if you can, don't just do blogs and videos and webinars and podcasts and white papers and infographics. Put an event into your content mix. It's the best networking and trust building and highest value for your audience of anything you can produce.
Yeah, we had to get that in there. So we'll wrap it up. We're always tight for time because we are your commute-friendly podcasters. So when you join us next time, we've touched on it here today, and we're going to expand on it. Next time, we're going to talk about the fine art of making interviews as part of your content marketing plan and arsenal and mix and so forth.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
It's gonna